Welcome into 5 Wide Fantasy. Today's video, this time, they are must-add players. This is why we hung on to the fab, we hung on to the priority, because the bye weeks are here, the injuries have come, and there are guys that you need to pick up this week. So make sure if you enjoyed the video, drop a like, subscribe to the channel. I know we're coming a little late here. Canada, Thanksgiving, Canadian Thanksgiving, a silly time. I don't get any football on my Thanksgiving, guys. It sucks. The only thing I get is the CFL. And I do respect the CFL. But anyways, let's get to the top ads for this week. I think I've got 8 guys for you. I've got 6 that are really high priority, and then 2 if you're in a bye week, bye week hell, and you need some deep ads that you can play this week. I've got a couple for you as well. Let's get to it, starting at the running back position. Eno Benjamin, 12% rostered right now. Knee injury to Darrell Williams, rib injury to James Conner. So realistically, you're probably not going to know what to expect from Eno Benjamin in week 6 until after the waiver wire, which is tough. You got to be able to spend your fab, your priority, decide what you want to do with this guy without knowing if he is going to start this week. But the thing is if he is starting and these 2 guys are out, which I think Williams will be out, I'm not so sure about Conner. Apparently Conner's been playing through this rib injury and had extra chest protection throughout the year. But to see him leave and not come back, they're wanting to be cautious. Maybe he does miss this week. The Seahawks are on deck. Fantastic matchup for any offense in the NFL. The Cardinals needing a soft matchup here. So this could be a great one for Benjamin. And he's for sure going to have that all-encompassing role because he's already been working as a pass catcher throughout the year. So he'll be sure to have the rushing downs as well as any 2 minutes, any third downs, everything this guy would have if these 2 guys are out. So certainly someone that I would be willing to spend my fab on, especially if this guy is not available. Surprisingly, Kenneth Walker is below that 50% threshold that I pay attention to. Kenneth Walker is that 80% fab, spend everything you have, league winner type guy, but it's a very specific way that I would call this guy a league winner. I look at Penny now being out for the season. Walker steps in, goes 8 for 88 and a touchdown. Fantastic for him to step in and immediately hit a big explosive play, find that production. But this is a guy in college and now in the NFL that does not have that pass catching receiving upside that you kind of need if you want to call this guy a league winner. But game scripts going to be positive for him. He's got Arizona, Chargers, Giants, Arizona again the next 4 weeks. Great matchups that I think this team will be competitive in. And then with the Chargers and the Giants and the Cardinals, they're also teams you can run the ball on. So this will be perfect for Walker to be able to have fantasy production over these next 4 weeks. If he's available, which he's available in 54% of leagues, you need to add him. But at the same time, this is a guy you can play for these next 4 weeks and then trade, because the four of the 5 weeks following are Tampa, Vegas, Rams, Niners. And then playing in the division with the Niners and the Rams, they're going to have another matchup with the Rams. Those matchups are very difficult. The Seahawks, which we'll get into in a little bit here with another must-add guy from the Seahawks, are throwing the ball in over 60% of plays, so it is going to make it difficult for Walker to be really good late in the year. But for the next 4 weeks, an immediate plug and play, which is fantastic for you. So make sure you're spending your fab on this guy. This is the time to do it. If he's available, go at Kenneth Walker. All right, tight end position. I was, just a prequel to this guy, I was going to make Foster Moreau the type of player you need to add, but that is something we can look at for next week. We saw Darren Waller go down with the injury last night, so it would make Foster Moreau, whose route participation was already fantastic, a great ad, but they are on a bye this week, so someone you can maybe look to add for free at the end of the week if you have an open spot and you are battling it at tight end. But the must-add tight end for me this week, definitely Evan Ingram of the Jacksonville Jaguars. 24% rostered right now. The route participation is up. It is getting to that elite tight end level. Ran a route on 82% of Lawrence's dropbacks last week. He ran 41 routes this week. That it was tied with Zay Jones. He's right there. And the slot. I mentioned this about Christian Kirk being that guy that you had to draft at the wide receiver position because he ran exclusively pretty much from the slot. Evan Ingram, 45.6% of his routes from the slot. Last week, 56% of his routes from the slot. That is a very important spot to earn targets in an offense that is run by Trevor Lawrence. He loves targeting the slot. Ingram is there. He's averaging 5.2 targets per game. Also fantastic. And which makes this ad even better and why I do the work for you guys, is the matchup with the Colts this week, who are 28th in fantasy points allowed to the tight end position. Evan Ingram is an instant start. I know I've been struggling at the tight end position in a couple of my leagues. Ingram will be a very, very high priority target for me, a guy I'm willing to spend, 8% of my fab, probably maybe 10% of my fab if I really need him, and a guy that I want to make sure I can add this week. All right, quarterback position. Geno Smith is a QB1, guys. Those are words that are being spoken in the year 2022. You need to add Geno Smith this week. He is a QB1. He's the QB6 on the season, completing over 75% of his passes. And I've always mentioned this. Trey Lance manager, been streaming the quarterback position for the last couple of weeks, found a way to get it done with Goff and Mariota, which is great. Now we head into another week where we have Geno Smith going against the Cardinals. The Cardinals on deck. The Cardinals are a fantastic matchup for him. Have the worst coverage grade in the NFL from PFF, 36.8. And then they're 25th in yards per coverage snap, 6.9 yards allowed. So a great matchup here against the Cardinals. And then as well, take this over the top, why this is a great matchup. Geno Smith against the blitz. The Cardinals blitz at the 4th highest rate in the league, and Geno has the highest completion percentage of the league against the blitz, 79%. 3 touchdowns, 300 yards passing, no interceptions. If this team's going to blitz Geno Smith, he's going to make him pay. Definitely a guy to add, 36% rostered, so certainly available in the majority of leagues. Go add Geno Smith if you need to start at the quarterback position. All right, let's get to the wide receiver position. I got a number of guys here. First, a few players that are a little bit more high rostered, starting with Rondell Moore. Still pretty widely available, 82% of leagues he is available. Moore is finally fully healthy, and we saw it when you look at those underlying numbers in terms of snaps and routes run. Completely took over for Greg Dortch. Greg Dortch ran 2 routes. He ran 2 routes yesterday or on Sunday, which is, I didn't expect that to happen, but Rondell Moore stepping in, taking over the full role, ran 83% of his routes from the slot. That Christian Kirk role that was from last season is what Rondell Moore looks to be stepping into. Now, this is a guy, again, Seahawks are on deck. They're 31st in passing DVOA. This is a great matchup, a great streamer for this week. Again, the problem is DeAndre Hopkins will be back in week 7. So how much is this guy going to be able to play a role and earn those 8 targets, 7 receptions, 68 yards that he did last week with DeAndre Hopkins being back? That's certainly a question mark because this offense has been completely dog shit, like just a clown show from Cliff Kingsbury so far this year. So might be a guy you can only play this week, but it is good to see that he completely took over and it has a full role now that he's healthy. So someone you can definitely play against the Seahawks. All right, another wide receiver, Marquez Valdez Scantling. At least the benefit we have of running this video on Tuesday after Monday Night Football is Valdez Scantling being a guy that I got to talk about again. We talked about him before as a guy that was leading the team in routes run. Does it again this week, but finally turns that into some production. 8 targets, 6 receptions, 90 yards on Monday night. Probably benefited from Travis Kelce being doubled on basically every play, except for in the red zone. So no touchdown for him, and that's probably why, is Kelce obviously the 4 touchdowns on Monday night. But he's looking a lot better this year compared to years past. We saw that one drop that kind of reared its ugly head during his time in Green Bay, but he's winning his routes. He's not running, straight lines exclusively as a deep man, just running wind sprints. I'm seeing him on some comeback routes, some out routes, looking sharper. I think he's honestly competing with Juju as that number 1 option. So banged up Bills secondary is up this week. That's an opportunity where you can still play this guy. That game total, I haven't looked at it yet from a betting perspective, is certainly in the 50s. They're expecting these teams to score some points, and Valdez Scantling could certainly be the beneficiary. The other thing that's good for him is Hardman's still dealing with that heel issue. We saw him leave the game briefly. He ran like half the amount of routes that Valdez Scantling did, so that could have an impact, or that will have an impact on Valdez Scantling in terms of his production if Hardman's seeing less routes. Just gives him more opportunity. So I would definitely look to add Valdez Scantling if he's available. There's some more high priority guys here, but a guy you can spend probably 5-6% and be able to add. Maybe you need to use 10 just with coming off the big week, but looking good right now through the first 5 weeks of the year. All right, these last 2 guys, deep plays players we're pretty much exclusively looking to stream. I don't see these guys having much long-term value. Let's start with KJ Osborne, 6% rostered. This is all about the matchup. Osborne going against the Dolphins in week 6. The Dolphins are ranked 30th in coverage grade and 32nd in passing DVOA. Osborne's that reliable slot option for Kirk Cousins. I think he has an elevated floor in this matchup against the Dolphins. We talked about them, in terms of how they rank in coverage. Haven't been great. Susceptible to some big plays. I think Osborne is a guy you could add who's averaging 4 or 5 targets a game that can be a replaceable level player in the flex spot. So I would consider adding him if you are desperate at the position and dealing with some bye weeks. Last one up, Darius Slayton. The Giants are a bit of a gong show. 0% rostered. Receiving options are obviously bleak in New York. Was a cut candidate in training camp. I think he ran a couple of routes in the first 2 weeks of the year. Now, with the injuries, they do need to get him out there. And in the last 2 weeks, he has a 25.7% target rate. Very respectable. Week 5 went for 7 targets, 6 receptions, 79 yards. There's nobody left here. Like it's a clown show between Wandale Robinson and Kadarius Toney listed with a hamstrings injury, not a hamstring injury, and Kenny Golladay with a knee injury. Galladay's been completely irrelevant so far this year. So I don't expect any of these 3 guys to be back. I would give maybe Wandale Robinson the best chance to return. But the Giants do have a good matchup against the Ravens secondary that's been pretty leaky. They've improved a fair bit the last couple of weeks. They looked good against the Bengals, but they're 30th in fantasy points allowed to wide receivers on the season, 3rd worst in the NFL. So an opportunity for Slayton to still produce. Daniel Jones dealing with injury, maybe not as mobile, looking to drop back. And I think the Ravens could potentially be able to stop the run, but the pass is where they've been a little bit more susceptible. So that makes Slayton a guy you could potentially add and stream for just this week. He's available in pretty much every league. All right, that is all of the must-add players for this week. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to subscribe, drop a like, comment down below with any decisions you're trying to make on players you could drop for these players. Happy to answer as many as I can. Really appreciate the support. If you haven't already, go check out our friends over at Betfred. Bet 50, get 250 this weekend and every week in the NFL. If you are betting on the NFL, betting on sports, college sports, MLB playoffs, go check them out. Fantastic place to be placing some bets. That link is down below in the description. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.